17, 1892, Dr. Jose Rizal arrived in Dapitan, exiled by the Spanish government and suspicion of his involvement in the rebellion. 4 years later, he left Dapitan on the 31st of 1896 and sailed back to Manila. He was executed by the musketry 5 months later. When Jose Rizal was expelled in Dapitan, a city town in the northernmost tip of the Zamboanga Peninsula, he had lived in Madrid, Paris, London, taken a trip across America, made friends with European individuals and intellectuals, written 2 novels that would start a revolution in a worldly, cosmopolitan man entitled to what must have been appeared to be in the middle of nowhere. Instead of giving despair, he put stability in peace.
During his first few weeks in town, Rizal stayed at the home of the town's military commandant, Captain Ricardo Carnicero, who would later become a friend. Rizal compared life in Dapitan with life in the forest. Rizal is known as an ilustrado, an enlightened person who had access to education during the Spanish period.
He sowed the rice and the cornfields to clear their lands, and after that, he invited his brother-in-law, Manuel Hidalgo, to launch the sale of abaca, which are they growing in Dapitan and selling in Manila for higher prices. Jose Rizal set up an association of Dapitan farmers, and it was the first commercial association in the town to make the first constitution and laws. Later on, when he found out that the locals didn't know how to fish in nets, Jose Rizal asked his mother-in-law Hidalgo to send the large fishing nets and teach them how to use it.
In the letter that Rizal wrote to his close friend Ferdinand Blumentritt, the Austrian Filipino, he described his morning routine with fruit trees, mangoes, lanzones, guyabanos, balonos, and animals like rabbit, dogs, and cat. He said he woke up early at 5 to visit his plants, feed the chickens, awaken the people, and put them to work. At 7 o'clock, they have breakfast with tea, pastries, cheese, and sweets, and treat his poor patients who come into their land. And after he dresses, he goes down to town with his canoe and return at 12, where his luncheons await him.
After hearing a bad news about Leonor's death, Rizal had been broken to the point of depression. Until one day, he met the adopted daughter of George III, which is Josephine Bracken. She came to accompany her father and see Rizal for consultation. Although Rizal was not able to treat his stepfather, Josephine left with the promise of coming back to the Philippines. They become lovers and even planned to get married.
Later on, Rizal won a lottery in Manila with Carnicero and another Spaniard. And after receiving his share of the prize, he purchased a 16-hectare plot of land in Talisay, a coastal barrio just off the Dapitan poblacion. Rizal built a school for the 6 local boys who he described as poor and intelligent. While Rizal was staying abroad, Josephine Bracken kept an eye on the students and made sure they completed the tasks given to them. Math, geometry, Spanish, English, French, and German were taught to the students, along with fencing, wrestling, and boxing, all of which were created after the German invasion.
Their education was not limited to the classroom's 4 walls. In order to get water from a mountain stream over the river to a public fountain that was shaped like a lion's head, Rizal and his wards built an aqueduct. They made do with what they had: bamboo, rocks, broken roof tiles, mortar made of lime from burned seashells, and bricks that Rizal created himself using a tool he created out of wood.
More students were eventually accepted into the school thanks to a unique and intensive exam that Rizal developed. After midnight, he would urge the candidate to enter the forest and find the cane he had left behind.
In order to scare off the unaware beginners, several of Rizal's students who were complicit in the plot would produce terrifying noises in the woods. He was welcome to the school if he managed to bring the cane back despite the threats. One of the good things Rizal experienced while he was in Dapitan was when he built the school for the poor boys and intelligent boys. He made sure that they can learn a lot throughout their studies.
While in political exile in Dapitan, Rizal kept himself busy. He was in agriculture, fishing, business, and even taught a few students English, Spanish, arts, and science from 1892 and 1896.
He spent a lot of time in the Piton studying nature and gathering specimens of plants, shells, insects, birds, amphibians, and reptiles. Rizal gathered these specimens with the help of his students. He collected a variety of local fauna and had it delivered to the renowned German scientist Adolf B. Mayer, whom he met in Dresden, and who was the director of the Dresden Royal Museum for Zoology, Anthropology, and Ethnography, for approximately 30 years to have a proper identification. Rizal received books, medical equipment, and additional guidance on how to properly maintain his specimens in return for the species he gave. He sent a variety of species including birds, snakes, insects, a seahorse, two scorpions, a boa constrictor, a turtle, the head of a wild deer, and the skin and skeleton of a tingaog, a species of plant that produce musk, a flying lizard, a tree frog, two beetles, all of which were named after him. They are Draco rizali, Rhacoporus rizali, Apogonia rizali, Spathomelus rizali, and Hydrocyces rizali. Draco rizali is a regular lizard that has extended wing-like ribs and is said to be only found in the dense forest of the Philippines. Rhacoporus rizali is an orange-brown amphibian with white, yellow, or blue spots. This frog lives in the forest and freshwater marshes of the Philippines, Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. Apogonia rizali is a rare kind of beetle that grows to about an inch long when fully mature.
This is the only species Rizal discovered whose name has been retained and is still widely used. Spathomelus rizali is a type of fruitless beetle. And lastly is Hydrocyte. It is a type of caddis fly, an insect that starts life as aquatic and becomes terrestrial upon maturity.
Along with all of these activities, Rizal managed time to pen poetry and communicate with a Jesuit priest named Father E. Pablo Pastels. He continued to work as a doctor, treating those who were ill and providing free medicine to those others who couldn't afford it. The assistance of another Jesuit, Francisco de Paula Sanchez, created a relief map of Mindanao in the Pitan Town Square. He produced a new Tagalog orthography, published a piece on Kula, discovered ancient items in an old cemetery, and had plans to create an English, French, and Spanish translated dictionary of Philippine languages. Rizal's activities were so diverse that it is so difficult to discuss them without enumerating them. When Rizal departed the Pitan 4 years later, he was so beloved by the locals that he was greeted with a procession.
What sparked Rizal's restless zeal, and how do we explain for the scope of his enthusiasms? His transdisciplinary education is a feasible answer. He studied philosophy, mineralogy, chemistry, physics, and botany, zoology, and his last year at the Ateneo Municipal de Manila. Even while studying metaphysics at the University of Santo Tomas, he took additional studies at the Ateneo Municipal in agriculture, geography, and drafting, earning him the designation of land surveyor and appraiser. While studying medicine at the Universidad Central de Madrid, he took philosophy and literature class, as well as fine arts instructions at the Academia de Bellas Artes de San Fernando.
It exemplifies the advantages of the Renaissance method of the linguistic specialist. The past century has seen a further fragmentation of disciplines, but Rizal's diverse activities speak to the value of interdisciplinary thought. Rizal's 4 years in the Vita demonstrated he was more than a simply martyr who was executed for authoring 2 books. He was fascinating, constantly curious guide whose abilities traveled across the bounds.
After 4 years that he has been exiled in Dapitan, he was moved here in Intramuros, Fort Santiago, and later on, for his last 24 hours, he was moved here in this improvised shrine to stand and repent on his last 24 hours of life.
At exactly 6 a.m. in the morning, Jose Rizal was brought to Bagong Bayan for his execution.
The execution ended by the time of 7:06 in the morning when he was declared dead. We would have to describe his stay in Dapitan, I would say simple yet inspiring. This is the best word that can be described in the life of Rizal in Dapitan. It is simple in a way that he lives like an ordinary people. And of course, inspiring because when he was there, he was able to live his life to the fullest without regrets by living the life while he can. Rizal's eventful 4 years in Dapitan shows that he was just not a martyr who was shot for writing 2 novels. He was a fascinating, endless, curious man whose talents spanned across boundaries.